You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Welcome back to Reliving the War, and welcome to September 25th, 2000. Raw's in State College, Pennsylvania tonight, while Nitro's in the Nassau Coliseum in New York. I had a nice break. I enjoyed disconnecting from the internet for a while, but it's time to get back to work. JR announces on Raw that it's a new era for the WWF tonight as Raw airs on TNN for the very first time. Raw's on a brand new network, so you just know they're going to pull out all the stops tonight. Nitro, meanwhile, opens up with Vince Russo and his crony Jeremy Borash heading into the arena. Remember, Vince Russo gets a title shot tonight against Booker T, which means it could be another dark day for WCW's history books. And that match is going to take place inside a steel cage. Actually, it's inside the caged heat structure, so WCW undersold themselves a little bit. And just before we get down to serious business, here's a Smokey the Cat update. Those who pledged to bring Smokey the Cat to life should expect to receive their little furry friend in the post very soon. And for those who missed out, you now have a very limited chance to order your very own Smokey. These will not be on sale forever. There's a countdown on Makeship's page right now. Once this reaches 0, there won't be another chance to have your very own little jam-up guy, so get on it now before it's too late. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. Raw opens up with a Stone Cold Steve Austin promo. We aren't messing around, guys. WCW, meanwhile, puts on a Johnny the Bull vs Big Vito match. Our Nitro opener is an I Quit stickball bat versus kendo stick match. We're just combined in random shit these days to make match types, and 90% of the match consisted of, well, kendo stick shots and stickball bat shots. You get what you pay for, I suppose. Some lady watched on from the audience looking pretty concerned. This is Marie, the sister of Big Vito, and she watched on as her brother and former Mama Luke teammate went to work in the ring. Nothing exciting at all here, to be honest. Reno ended up interfering while holding a kendo stick, and when Vito began getting his ass kicked, Marie tried to slide into the ring, but this proved to be a little difficult for her. Eventually she got in, she protected her brother, the referee called for the bell even though Vito didn't say I quit, and Vito thanked his sister by almost kicking her head off while getting himself down from the tree of woe. Man, it is good to be back. On Raw, the glass shatters and out walks Stone Cold Steve Austin. What a way to kick off this new era of WWF Raw. At Unforgiven, Austin didn't find out who tried to murder him, but he wants to look at what's been going on since the last time he was active in WWF. Vince McMahon's away making babies. Austin says he had dragged McMahon to a vasectomy clinic due to the way Stephanie and Shane turned out. Stephanie and Triple H, meanwhile, have the worst marriage in the history of the business. Naked Midian is fine in Stone Cold's book, but he needs to get those pimples off his ass. Yeah, things are now a lot different. Austin, however, won't change. He's still going to drink beer and raise hell, and he's still looking out for the person who ran him down at Survivor Series. Stone Cold promises to get payback. He's going to find the culprit by weeding out the entire locker room, and so Mick Foley comes out to glaze the ever-loving shit out of Austin, and even Jerry Lawler picks up on this, calling Mick a brown noser. Mick wants Austin to find the culprit, but taking it out on someone's ass isn't a method Foley can condone. Mick says no one's ass needs to get violated, and Stone Cold needs to let Commissioner Foley find out who was behind the wheel at Survivor Series 99. Austin reminds Mick that his current investigations have sucked. Austin says it could have been Mick Foley driving the car, seeing as he's a terrible driver, a little line that makes Foley corpse. But before Foley can claim his innocence, Chris Benoit walks down. Benoit formally introduces himself to Austin, but he doesn't want to talk about Survivor Series. He wants to talk about how he got screwed over by Mick Foley once again when the commissioner took the WWF title away from him during a pay-per-view main event. If anyone deserves payback, it's Chris Benoit, and Benoit wants a title shot against The Rock tonight on Raw. Foley says, yeah, he screwed Benoit worse than a White House intern, so yes, Benoit is getting a title shot tonight against Rocky. But here comes Kurt Angle, and he too wants to address something that happened at Unforgiven. Stephanie McMahon kicked him in the balls, but Kurt forgives his friend. He knows Triple H forced Stephanie to do this, he saw the fear in Stephanie's eyes after the match, and so Angle wants to fight Triple H again tonight on Raw. He wants that match booked right now, and Mick denies Kurt's request. Angle, wanting to salvage something from this appearance, then rips into Steve Austin for accusing both himself and Benoit of running him over at Survivor Series, something that Austin actually didn't do, but anyway. Angle also offered Stone Cold his friendship last night. He offered him a replica gold medal, and Stone Cold decided to beat Kurt up and attack an American hero. Angle demands an apology. Austin instead dishes out some Stone Cold stunners. The crowd goes nuts, and Raw starts off hot in its TNN debut. A good promo here, and fans are overjoyed to have Stone Cold back in the WWF. David Flair's on the streets, trying to find the jabroni who knocked up Miss Hancock. He goes to a payphone, he pulls out the phone book, he locates the address of the dirty dog who dicked his ex-fiancée, and some randomer tells David how to get to the address. We'll come back to this later on. Next on Raw, we've got Kane vs Rikishi. On Nitro, Vince Russo cuts a promo. Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner come out to introduce Russo. Jarrett said the hometown boy was going to win the world belt. Scotty ripped into the New York Giants and New York Jets before saying he ran Bill Goldberg out of the wrestling business. He also throws some shade at Jumbo Elliott of the New York Jets, something that's going to backfire later on. And here comes Vince Russo along with Jeremy Borash to a good reaction, my god. The crowd chant Russo's name as he gets in the ring. He talks about how he kissed the floor when walking into the arena because there's no place like Long Island. He runs through names of famous Long Islanders before announcing that the name of Vince Russo is going to get plastered on a banner and hung up in the Nassau Coliseum after tonight's main event. He says people that live here are privileged because Russo now calls Atlanta his home, and Atlanta's famous for NASCAR, the Georgia Bulldogs, and inbreeding. Fantastic. He then talks about John Rocker again. Russo wanted a Starrcade match against Rocker, by the way, but that wouldn't happen. And after saying that he has the Spaldings big enough to win the world belt tonight, Booker T shows up on the Titantron. Sting then appears behind Booker. He says he's got Booker's back tonight, and he also tells Vince to look behind him. And yeah, there he is. Billy Boy's in the arena tonight, and he looks pretty happy. Goldberg looks scary when he's happy. Over on Raw, we've got the battle of the big boys as Rikishi and Kane went to work outside the ring. Rikishi tried to use a ring bell before the match got underway. His brilliant plan backfired. But when the action got inside the ropes, Rikishi shook it off and he delivered a sidekick to the Big Red Machine. Moments later, Rikishi performed a Samoan drop. Kane then took a corner hip attack, but he did not fall in place for the stink face. Would be quite funny to see Kane get a shitty mask, but it wasn't on the card tonight, folks. We go outside again, the competitors shove Teddy Long away, the referee disqualifies both men, and it ends with the guys hitting each other with a steel chair. Chair shots have no effect on Kane and Rikishi, so they get in the ring again and officials have to break them up. If the WWF are trying to make this a serious feud, then I'm sorry, I'm not really interested. I'm starting to think this Kane heel turn was a bit pointless. Stone Cold Steve Austin approaches The Undertaker. The dead man tells Austin don't even think about it because it wasn't The Undertaker who ran him down at Survivor Series. The Undertaker was out of action when the incident took place. Undertaker says he and Austin will one day meet again in the ring. The two can't work out if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But let me tell you something, brother. I really don't want to see these two go at it again anytime soon. Above average, Mike Sanders informs Chronic that, as per Vince Russo's orders, Chronic are not going to take part in Nitro's next match. It's a battle royal for the WCW Tag Team titles. On Raw, meanwhile, we've got Bubba Ray Dudley versus Tazz. So, who have we got here? Champions Ray and Juventud, the Bozo Brothers, 3 Count, Jindrak and O'Hare, the MIA, the Young Dragons, yes, super. First out is Kaz Hayashi, as Tony Schiavone says both members of a team must get eliminated in this match. Sugar Shane then gets stumped out of the ring and through a table by Jindrak and O'Hare. And moments later, Chronic show up and they eliminate the Harris Brothers, 3 Count and the MIA. Conan's on commentary here and he can't believe these two morons are interfering in the match, but he really shouldn't care seeing as Hoovy and Ray are still in the bout. security run in, Chronic get pepper sprayed. When the two Bryans finally get escorted out of the ring, we get left with Hoovy, Ray, Jindrak and O'Hare, and the champs look pretty good after poetry in motion. Ray goes for a Bronco Buster, he gets a boot in the balls for his trouble. We see the Sean Tom bomb from Big Sean O'Hare, but the animals stay in it. Disco Inferno then shows up with his Disco Duck. Why WCW didn't sell Disco Ducks at arenas, we'll never know. And Disco shows he's completely done with the filthy animals by smacking Hoovy with his deadly inflatable duck before causing Guerrero to get eliminated. Conan chases Disco away, Ray's left all alone with Jindrak and O'Hare, and the animals end up losing the tag team belts after a diving clothesline from Jindrak. Just remembering now that Disco also cost the Animals the tag team titles on last week's Nitro, so I guess the Animals won them back on Thunder or something. I didn't have time to check out Thunder this week, guys. Sorry. New champs on Nitro though. A good tag team, so no complaints here. Let's see it all lead to nothing, and the tag title reign of O'Hare and Jindrak being completely forgettable like most things in WCW during this time period. On Raw, Tazz gives Bubba Ray Dudley a hard time for bringing Devon with him to the ring. He thinks Bubba has itty bitty bollocks, seeing as he won't fight him alone, so Bubba sends his partner to the back and the match gets underway. Those itty bitty bollocks get kicked the moment Tazz has the opportunity. Bubba was doing quite well up until this point, but from here Tazz takes control. The crowd chants "We want tables" as the human suplex machine goes to work, but Bubba comes back with a few punches to the face followed by a sidewalk slam. Bubba calls for a sit-down powerbomb, Tazz takes the move. The match resumes with a referee bump, and after putting Bubba Ray down, Tazz goes outside the ring to get in Jerry Lawler's face. I thought this rivalry would have ended at Unforgiven, but maybe not. Tazz throws water all over the King. When Lawler goes to retaliate, Raven shows up to hit the King with an even flow. Inside the ring, Bubba Ray performs a Bubba Bomb, but he too ends up taking a DDT from Raven, and Tazz wins the match via pinfall. I've pretty much given up on Tazz in the WWF after only a few months, but I'm highly interested in seeing Raven. Again though, we shouldn't get our hopes up. Stephanie McMahon wants to know what was up with Triple H last night and why did he act so weird after his match with Angle at Unforgiven. Hunter explains that the kiss he gave Stephanie was to put an exclamation point on the ass kicking he just gave Kurt Angle. The kiss was to prove to Kurt Angle that Stephanie McMahon belongs to Triple H. So Hunter was thinking of some sweaty dude while smooching his wife. After those jokes Hunter made last week, I'm starting to think he was projecting a little bit. Over on Nitro, Pamela Paulshock interviews Howard Stern's Wack Pack. Mean Gene explains that these guys are going to judge a bikini contest later tonight, so we've got Hank the Angry Drunken Dwarf, now deceased, Crackhead Bob, also deceased, High Pitched Eric, still among us I believe, Fred the Elephant Boy, deceased, and Beetlejuice, still among us and part of a memorable Nitro segment a bit later on. Kevin Nash walks in along with the Natural Born Thrillers. He calls this all horseshit and he says Mean Gene should be interviewing his boys, the Natural Born Thrillers, who just claimed the tag team titles moments ago. Nash then throws shade when he shakes Beetlejuice's hand while calling him Elix. So why Elix Skipper was catching strays from Big Sexy, I've no idea. The ICP challenged Mike Awesome next on Nitro, while Raw presents a Hardys vs Edge and Christian ladder match. And the reason why Violent J and Mr. Two Dope are challenging Awesome tonight is because Mike injured Vampiro, and he, quote, broke his spleen or something. Violent J says JCW guys like Madman Pondo, The Rude Boy, and Death Dealer Tommy Starr are hardcore. Mike Awesome, on the other hand, is dead. So Mike shows up in his shaggin' wagon, and this short match is going to take place around this area right here beside the entranceway. Standard stuff, a few weapon shots and a 2-on-1 advantage allowed the ICP to take the driver's seat. Violent J sets up a table as Shaggy 2-Dope tries to bring Awesome to the top of his 70s bus, but Mike manages to fight back and the ICP are now in trouble. Violent J gets put through a table, the bump was nothing special, but then Mike decides to deliver an Awesome bomb to Shaggy 2-Dope on top of his bus, and the surface on the roof was so slippy that poor Mr. 2-Dope ends up falling and smacking the concrete floor. Mike tried to save him, but it was no use. Mike Awesome wins via pinfall, and Violent J revealed that he didn't actually see his partner take this bump, seeing as he was still selling on the table. When they got backstage, everyone was asking, oh my god, are you okay? And Violent J was like, yeah, I'm doing great, not realizing that everyone was actually worried about his partner. Anyway, David Flair's pulling up to Chuck E. Cheese, he needs directions, and the lady at the desk isn't very helpful. Terrible customer service here, and you'd expect better from a lady who works for a giant fucking rat. David thinks the man he's looking for could be in the ball pit, but alas, no such luck. Not only were the WWF Tag Team titles defended last night inside a steel cage, but they're being defended again tonight in a ladder match. These boys just don't take a break. Mick Foley informed Edge and Christian that this will be their one and only chance at winning the belts back from the Hardy Boys. Christian said the Hardys' current title reign will be the shortest in history, and Mick says, in that case, the Hardys might need one of these, a short umbrella. Rain umbrella, get it? Yeah. Mick's office is also the women's restroom, by the way, and he's accepting tips. He must like the smell or something. So it's the Hardys defending against Edge and Christian, and the challengers' attempt at stealing the belts early on didn't work out. We see poetry in motion while using the ladder, a double ball bag squisher while also using the ladder, Matt Hardy getting dropped on the ladder, Jeff getting sandwiched and thrown into the corner. Some serious stuff here early on, and again, keep in mind these guys had a cage match just last night. We get multiple ladders in the ring when the champs stop the challengers from grabbing the belts. A huge ladder gets introduced that Matt gets pushed off when going for a leg drop, and we then see a spot that would make these guys even more famous at next year's WrestleMania. A spear from Edge while Jeff hangs from the belt hooks. Loads of people forget that this spot was actually done on Monday Night Raw. In comes Lita to stop Edge winning the match, but she pays for this with an inverted DDT from Christian. From here, the guys get a chance to take a short breather, but we resume with Edge performing a diving clothesline on the outside while Matt takes a back suplex from Christian. Matt's face has been pretty messed up, but that's not going to stop him from trying to climb the ladder once again. This time he gets stopped with a cutter from Edge, and the crowd show their appreciation by applauding all four competitors. Great stuff here tonight on Raw's War. Matt gets some payback by powerbombing Edge before making one more attempt at grabbing the gold. And this is where our match ends, folks. Edge and Christian wake up, they want to hit Matt with a concerto, but Jeff and Lita help Matt out by pushing the challengers down from the ladders and the Hardy Boys win. Fantastic stuff here, but everyone involved, including Lita, looks a bit beaten up after the bout. You gotta love the work these guys put in over a span of a couple of days, and you'd hope they'd get a few nights off after these difficult matches. Stone Cold's interrogating the Stooges. They can't get their story straight, and Austin knows both guys are lying. Austin knows that they were at Survivor Series. That being said, neither of these two have the balls to run Stone Cold down, and so they're getting let off the hook. But if Austin finds out either of these jabronis know anything at all about who was behind the wheel, well, they'll both get their asses kicked. We've got promos next, Chyna on Raw's War and Ernest Miller on Nitro. And Chyna's here to talk about her Playboy photo shoot and how well the magazine sold across America. You dirty, dirty animals. Chyna talks about how people once called her a freak and how people called her ugly. She goes on about how society sees run-of-the-mill models and celebrities as beautiful women and how she's broken new ground with this Playboy shoot. The WWF backed her up, the guys and girls in the locker room backed her up. Chyna proved the world wrong by gracing this dirty rag, and she thanks the WWF for giving her the opportunity. She gets very emotional here as she talks about how she was encouraged to do the shoot and how she gained confidence to go ahead with it thanks to her peers. But the Right to Censor still think this is all very unacceptable. A woman getting her giant thumb bags out for all to see is bad enough, but Chyna even showed her bacon sandwich, and that, my friends, is a strict no-no. Val Venis says there was no fact or logic in what Chyna just said. What Chyna took part in was immoral, and fans should really stand up and boycott the magazine. Venis tells everyone not to buy Chyna's Playboy book. Chyna isn't worth it, and I'm guessing Venis had a good look at the magazine before coming out. But never mind that, here comes IC champion Eddie Guerrero with a bunch of roses for his mamacita. Eddie says Chyna is worth it, she's the hottest, sexiest mamacita in the world, and the RTC must be stupid. Eddie's going to defend Chyna's honour and the IC title tonight against any one of these stupid homies on the stage right now, and Val Venis gets named as the challenger. So tonight on Raw, it's Val Venis versus Eddie Guerrero for the Intercontinental title. On Nitro, the Cat comes out to the ring with Miss Jones. He gets in the ring and he says he hates Mark Madden's fat ass, which was a bit out of pocket, but it did get a pop. Ernest makes an announcement. Jeff Jarrett, Scott Steiner, and Kevin Nash are barred from the main event tonight, and if any one of these guys get involved in the Russo vs Booker match, they'll all get fired. Miller was just about to leave when Mike Sanders shows up. The cat called Sanders a member of the natural-born ratings killers, and Mike says he wants to negotiate a little deal. Mike wants Miller to reconsider this main event stipulation, or Mr. Above Average will lay the smackdown. The cat ends up taking Sanders out with ease, so here comes Big Sexy leading the other Thrillers to the entranceway. Coach Nash tells the boys what they need to do. The Thrillers hit the ring and they destroy Miller. And it does make you wonder why the cat just doesn't fire all these guys. If he had fired Nash, Steiner and Jarrett for potentially interfering in the main event, why wouldn't he fire a bunch of guys who are literally attacking him right now at this moment? Typical WCW logic right here. Trish Stratus once again tries to get Kurt Angle's attention. Angle is once again totally oblivious. It takes Trish to wear that replica gold medal around her neck for Kurt to finally take notice.
He's an animal!
An animal! An animal!
On Nitro, meanwhile, we've got that Miss WCW Bikini contest with the Wack serving as judges, and we've got Shay, Chiquita, Tori Wilson, Tigress, Paisley, Leia Meow, and Major Bops. The Major got interrupted by Hacksaw Jim Duggan saying that she wore an American bikini. Hacksaw wrapped guns in the maple leaf while telling her to get out of the ring. And the winner turned out to be Pamela Paulshock. Pamela wasn't even in the competition. She was just feeling hot and she took her ridiculously heavy fur coat off. The Wack Pack liked what Pamela was hiding, and so she was named the winner of this contest. Leia wanted to attack Pamela. This led to Medeja coming out to save her for some reason, and on top of this, the women had to stall for ages, saying as Medeja must have missed her cue or something. It all ends with Leia and Medeja having a cat fight before Nitro moves on. I guess standards and practices have seriously lightened up on WCW over the past few months. Backstage, Scotty Steiner calls Medeja his favourite freak. He then reiterates that he made Bill Goldberg quit WCW, but Goldberg attacks Steiner and Bill makes it clear he's not going anywhere. After a commercial break, Disco Inferno gets in the ring holding his disco duck. He says he's got a brand new tag team partner that he wants to introduce to everybody, but Scotty Steiner walks down instead and he clobbers Disco into next week. Even the poor duck gets thrown out of the ring and there was no need for that. Scott wants Goldberg to come to the ring. He wants to end this rivalry and he wants to put Goldberg down once and for all. So Billy comes out and he accepts the challenge. One-on-one, no interference. And seeing as we've got a big steel structure hanging above the ring, Goldberg wants this fight to take place inside the steel cage. And that match takes place next on Nitro while Raw presents X-Pac versus Chris Jericho. Again. So Scotty tries to run away, but Goldberg grabs him at the announce desk. After getting choked out and after getting his head rocked off the cage heat structure, Steiner finally gets put in the ring and the fight's on. There's no referee here. The first to leave the cage will be the match winner. Clothesline from Goldberg, Gorilla Press Slam from Goldberg. Steiner gets a break after a low blow in the corner, and Scotty follows up with a belly-to-belly and a clothesline. Scotty then goes upstairs for a flying clothesline. He shows off his peaks, and this was a mistake, seeing as Goldberg instantly replied with a butterfly suplex. No worries though, all Scott needs to do is deliver another low blow and Goldberg's back on the mat. Medeja walks down holding Scotty's pipe. His lead pipe, that is. Scott's able to use the weapon and he feels he's done enough to win the match, but Jumbo Elliott, the guy Steiner ripped into earlier on, prevents Scott from leaving. So the match continues. Scott tries to use the lead pipe once again, but he ends up taking a spear. Billy Boy then walks out of the cage while Jumbo holds the door open, and Goldberg defeats Scotty Steiner on Nitro. I thought their encounter at Fall Brawl was a whole lot better honestly, but I didn't expect them to top that match either. Chris Jericho faces X-Pac once again on WWF television, only this time it's a First Blood match. A very short First Blood match where Jericho launched an attack during X-Pac's entrance. Jericho maintained control in the ring before the two headed outside. X-Pac tried to bust Jericho open with a chair shot, but he missed his target. Back in the ring though, Y2J took the X-Pac spinning heel kick while the crowd chanted X-Pac sucks. Jericho then got a chance to pull off his springboard dropkick. He loses his footing and the move looks terrible. But not to worry because this match is now pretty much over. The two head into the crowd for a brief fight. Jericho then misses a chair shot. X-Pac finds a conveniently placed glass bottle and he smashes that bastard right over Jericho's head. And inside the ring he rubs the glass into Jericho's face. X-Pac wins the First Blood match, but he doesn't get a chance to attack Chris after the bell. Pac wanted to use Steve Blackman's nunchucks, he instead takes a low blow and it's Pac who takes a shot to the head. It all ends with X-Pac getting put in the walls of Jericho while on top of the announce table, because doing submission moves on top of announce tables makes them 10 times more effective. Stone Cold approaches Triple H and Stephanie. Stephanie isn't happy with Austin stunning her brother 3 times, and Austin tells Hunter to shut his wife up. Austin says Triple H is one of his #1 suspects. DX were heavily involved in what happened at Survivor Series, and Triple H has done pretty well for himself in Austin's absence. But Triple H says it wasn't him. Hunter would look Austin right in the eye and he'd do the job like a man, right to Stone Cold's face. Triple H didn't run over Austin, he doesn't know who did it. And Austin says Triple H is either a liar, a crazy son of a bitch, or maybe he's actually telling the truth. Over on Nitro, meanwhile, Jeff Jarrett bumps into Beetlejuice and Double J gets called a slapnut.
Yeah, you, stand up.
Oh my God!
One more time for prosperity.
Yeah, you, stand up.
Oh my God!
Double J's in action next against General Rection. That'll put some butts in seats. On Raw, it's Eddie Guerrero versus Val Venis. Primetime Elite Skipper and Lance Storm weren't able to take Hugh Morris out, and it looked like the General was about to score a win over Jarrett. When he went for the no laughing matter, however, Hacksaw Jim Duggan came out, and a 2x4 shot ensured that Morris couldn't pull off his finishing move. Double J delivers the stroke, Jeff wins as expected, and again, as expected, we get a brawl between Team Canada and the MIA after the bell. In the middle of this brawl, the lights begin flashing and the Stinger makes an appearance. Sting must be an MIA sympathiser now. And after Sting clears the ring out, Lance Storm grabs a microphone to say Sting needs to be taught a lesson. Sting needs to be taught a lesson in respect. This isn't about baseball bats, this isn't about the Canadian Championship, it isn't even about Team Canada. It's about Lance Storm challenging Sting to a match right now on Nitro, and that match is coming up in just a moment. On Raw, Chyna escorted Eddie Guerrero to the ring like the good girlfriend she is, while Steven Richards brought Val Venis down to the ring like the good girlfriend he is. And Eddie began defending his Mamacita's honour by throwing Venis around by his black tie. Val replies with a back elbow, a knee drop and a few mounted punches. The necktie then gets used as a weapon by Val, so turnabout's fair play I guess. And things look bleak for Eddie after a corner clothesline and a blue thunder bomb. Venis goes upstairs, Eddie stops his momentum with his superplex from the top, and our match ends when Steven Richards gets on the apron and Chyna rips his trousers off because it's funny. Male ass cheeks are very, very funny. Eddie wins with a roll-up, a good time was had by all. Raw moves on, and next we've got a William Regal promo which is sure to be awesome no matter what, while Nitro presents that Sting vs Lance Storm match. Big dropkick from Lance Storm, a trifecta of clotheslines from the man called Sting. Lance stops a top rope move momentarily, but the icon shoves Lance away and we see a diving clothesline. A Stinger splash misses its target, and on the outside, Lance is able to drop toe hold his opponent into the guardrail. Lance comes back in the ring with a springboard dropkick, which gives the Canadian hero a ton of confidence. Sting kicks out of a blue thunderbomb pinning combination. He rolls through after a Lance Storm crossbody. The Stinger fires up with his signature facebuster, and just like that, it's a Stinger splash and a scorpion death. Oh no, maybe not. Lance counters the deathlock and we see the maple leaf. But if Sting gives up here, I'll eat my own ass. It's not going to happen. Sting grabs the ropes, my ass stays intact, and our match ends with a series of death drop counters, but in the end Sting's able to perform his finishing move. Sting wins a match that wasn't terrible by any means, and I'd actually like to see these two go a bit longer. This wasn't bad. Over on Raw, our main man William Regal still wants to be a goodwill ambassador to the American people. He's thankful to be here tonight in this Institute of Learning, even if it is a shithole. And Regal wants to share the joy of literature with these fine people by reading a book from another famous William, Mr. William Shakespeare. You may have heard of him. Regal wants to read Hamlet from start to end. He gets through a few lines before the glass shatters, and the fans are very happy to see Stone Cold once again. Austin isn't here to enjoy Regal's reading, instead he delivers a Stone Cold Stunner and he immediately leaves the ring. The message was sent loud and clear, but come on Stone Cold, Hamlet's a fine tale and you could learn a thing or two from reading it. For some reason though, I don't think the people of America respect William Regal too much. The Rock says Benoit's claims of getting screwed last night at Unforgiven are unfounded. Benoit tried to pin The Undertaker, Taker got his foot on the ropes. Benoit isn't a two-time WWF champion, he's not a one-time champion, but he is, quote, the all-time, without a shadow of a doubt, punk-ass son of a bitch. One more time, Rock's gonna bring it to Chris Benoit, and that main event match is up next on Raw while Nitro presents Vince Russo versus Booker T for the WCW Championship. Shane McMahon comes to the ring with Chris Benoit, so this relationship seems to be ongoing. We see a back elbow from Rocky, a kitchen sink from Benoit, and as the two settle into their main event match, the crowd are more concerned about letting Shane McMahon know how much of a pussy he is. Benoit stays in control thanks to some help from the Boy Wonder, though Rock does get a chance to lock in his shit shooter. This gets broken up by Shane O'Mac, and so the story of the match is going to be the tried and tested babyface overcoming the odds kind of stuff that we see all the time. German suplexes from Benoit, a DDT from the People's Champ. Benoit says it's all over after a swinging neckbreaker and the crippler delivers his diving headbutt, though he isn't able to capitalise and make the cover. Rock's momentum gets halted once again thanks to Shane McMahon, and when Rock covers Benoit following a belly-to-belly, Shane pulls the referee out of the ring. Even worse, Hebner gets knocked off the apron when trying to get back in the ring. So there's no official to protect the Rock, and this means Shane McMahon's free to get in the ring and give Rock the beating of a lifetime. This isn't exactly what happens. Rock looks at Shane like the little piece of garbage he is before putting him down with a spine buster, but we don't see the people's elbow. Instead, Benoit delivers a hook clothesline before going outside to grab a chair. And then, when Benoit takes a swing at Rock, it's Shane who takes all the impact. Our match ends with Rock and Benoit fighting on the outside while Stephanie McMahon comes bouncing down to the ring to check on her brother. Triple H soon follows. He helps his wife get Shane out of the ring while warning Steph it's not safe here. And just before Hunter can get out of the ring, Benoit ends up running into him and Triple H takes this personally. The game drops Benoit over the top rope, The Rock then delivers a rock bottom, and Rocky successfully defends his WWF title after winning via pinfall. A strange turn of events here. Hunter inadvertently helped Rock win the match, but it doesn't end here, folks. Kurt Angle runs down to attack Triple H and Rock. Benoit helps Angle out a little. So we've got Rock and Hunter trying to fight off Angle and Benoit, meaning that Triple H babyface turn could actually be happening. Stephanie gets in the ring, she slaps Kurt. Angle wonders why Steph would do such a thing, but Chris Benoit doesn't care about Steph at all. As a matter of fact, Benoit headbutts Stephanie before leaving the ring, and the crowd aren't sure if they should cheer or boo. Still, that's how Raw ends this week, and I sincerely hope we're done with Rock vs Benoit matches from this point on. David Flair's found the house he's been looking for. Some geezer opens the door and David says, "Where is he?" The old boy has no idea who David's looking for, but Flair Jr. still barges in and he looks around the house. When David confirms the address, the guy says, "That's next door, you dickhead." And David then finds out that whoever he's looking for is actually out of town. He is not home. Flair Jr. says he's gonna hang around and wait for the dirty animal to come back. The old chap says he's gonna call the cops. So we gotta wait to find out who the father of Stacy's child is. I bet you're all on the edge of your seats. Vince Russo says the time for talk is over. He said he was going to leave New York as the WCW Champion, and that's what's going to happen. Russo doesn't care if Booker has backup, he's going to be victorious in the greatest city in the world. Russo makes his entrance, he wants to protect those kayfabe concussions while wearing that football helmet. And after Booker makes his entrance, a bunch of superstars surround the ring, and the commentators, including Jeremy Borash, aren't too sure what these guys are doing here. Russo had a baseball bat down his pants because he's got a lot of room down there, and he launches an attack before Booker was ready. He then tries to leave the cage, the guys outside the ring won't let him go, so technically speaking Russo should already be WCW Champion. This is ridiculous. Russo continues on with more bat shots, he then brings a ladder into the ring and his plans to escape through the cage roof. But Mike Awesome ensures Russo can't leave, and if that wasn't bad enough, Sting also shows up to provide cover on the cage roof. Booker's magically shaken off the bat shots and he's ready to get physical. He takes the helmet off and he punches Russo in the face. Sting goes to the outside of the cage, seeing as his services are no longer needed upstairs, and Russo falls victim to a standing sidekick. It's now all about Booker punishing Russo and making Vince pay for everything he's done over the past few weeks. Booker's now toying with Russo as the two fight beside the caged heat structure. Just then, the total package, Lex Luger makes his WCW return by coming through the audience and handing Russo a lead pipe, and Russo proceeds to attack both Booker T and official Mickey J. The official gets busted open, other officials get in the cage and they try to help Mickey out. We have also got a few EMTs in the cage, and Luke, one of those EMTs is none other than Ric Flair. Flair stumbles when going after Russo, but he gets him in the end. The Nature Boy gets Russo in the ring and he puts him in the figure 4 very briefly before leaving again. We've got pure chaos breaking out as the Natural Born Thrillers show up and the wrestlers around the ring end up brawling all the way to the back. But inside the ring, Russo takes the axe kick and it should now be all over. Booker delivers a Harlem sidekick before telling Russo, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." And just before Booker walks out the cage door, Goldberg's music plays. For some strange, unknown and stupid reason, Booker doesn't leave the cage. He just stands there and he waits for Goldberg to enter, and this would end up costing Booker dearly. Scotty Steiner shows up just as Goldberg enters the cage. He slams the door in Booker's face, which keeps the champ inside caged heat for a little longer. Goldberg then spears Russo just as Vince was going for the champion, and the spear leads to Russo leaving the cage before Booker T. It also leads to Russo suffering a legit concussion when his head bangs off the security rail, and this would ultimately make him leave WCW television. But Russo left the cage first, and that means Russo is the WCW champion. Booker T doesn't seem to know it yet, and neither does Goldberg. But Vinny Roo is on top of the WCW mountain, which is some grade A bollocks if you ask me. So I have to choose which is better, the Raw that featured the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin, or the Nitro where Vince Russo became champion. Yeah, you know the answer. Not much more to say really. Raw was a better show overall when you include the ladder match in the main event. Nitro had its moments, but the WWF wanted to make a good first impression with TNN tonight, and they succeeded. An easy point for the WWF. In the TV ratings, Raw gets a 5.4, Nitro gets a 2.9. Next week on Raw, Mick Foley gives ENC a shot at some gold, but not the gold the boys were thinking of. We've got a Triple H vs Kurt Angle Unforgiven rematch, and we'll also witness the return of badass Billy Gunn. On Nitro, David Flair finally catches the man who shagged his ex-fiancée. Happy days, mate, happy days. Vince Russo makes an important announcement regarding the WCW Championship, and we get to witness one of WCW's most infamous matches, the San Francisco 49ers match. Thanks for watching, folks. Remember, you can get early episodes via YouTube channel membership and Patreon. You can grab your Smokey the Cat plushie right now for a very limited time, and I'll see you all next week. Please take care.